So hi everyone, I'm Jenna from On the Interview, and today I'm here to talk to you about 5 different things that your boss wishes that you knew or wants you to know before getting a promotion. So the first one is advocating for yourself. I can't stress this one enough. This goes back to really telling the story of what's going on in your career, in your job, and what you're up to. You can't assume that your manager or your boss knows what you're doing. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but they've got a lot of stuff going on and they have their own projects and own things happening too. And so they don't always stop to look at what is going on in your day to day. And so it's so important that you're keeping them updated and that you're sharing all of the positive things that you're bringing to the organization. And now I should say that's not to mention it's not to take away the things that you're maybe not doing well at or the times that you failed. I think it's really important to share that information as well. But think about the learnings and the lessons that you've had and all the important things that that you can be sharing with them. And that will support you in being seen and recognized as doing something to support the business and bringing and moving the business forward. We want to promote people who are bringing the business forward. And so a story I'll share is that when I worked at Lululemon in the stores, I had a coworker and she was always promoting herself, always sending emails, letting our manager know all of the great things that her and her team were up to, all of the great results that she had. And I remember having one of my performance reviews and this manager of mine saying, you need to advocate for yourself more. You need to show us what you're doing. You need to tell your story. And sure enough, the more often that I did that, or when I started doing it rather, that's when the opportunities would come. That's when I would be selected to take on different development opportunities, different projects, which allowed me to gain more experience on my resume. And therefore, when the time came to be promoted, I had great experiences to be able to share. All right, so let's talk about the second one. It's about entitlement. Entitlement, I promise you, will get you nowhere. Do not assume that because you've worked somewhere for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, that you deserve a new job title, a new role, or even a promotion, a raise, whatever that might be. You need to show the results. Show the results, the things that you've done, the actions that you've taken, again, how you've moved the business forward. And that is going to be what supports you in getting that promotion. So don't sit on your laurels. Don't assume anything. Make sure that you advocate for yourself. And then secondly, remember that entitlement is going to get you nowhere. So we've talked about advocating for yourself, and then we've talked about entitlement. And now it's all about taking responsibility, being honest, and learning from your mistakes. One of my most favorite leaders always used to say, everyone is responsible. And at the time when they would say this, I really didn't understand what they were talking about. Everybody is responsible. I have a job to do. You have a job to do. Got it. But over the years in business, as I ran different businesses, supported different businesses, led different people, this couldn't ring more true into my philosophy and how I lead teams and how I lead myself in my day-to-day work. And so when I think about everyone is responsible, I want to share a little example with you around what that means. So my background is I've worked a lot in retail, both in the store and then in the support offices, supporting the retail teams. And when I think about that comment around everyone is responsible, I think about going into a retail location and maybe seeing the merchandising isn't done the way that it's supposed to be. Or maybe overhearing a customer service representative talk about one of the products incorrectly, or seeing that there's a burnt out light bulb, or noticing that no one's talking to the customers in the store. If I go back or I step back and I don't say anything about all of those things that I've seen, I'm not supporting the business and moving forward. And in the first 2 things that I shared with you around advocating for yourself and around entitlement, who am I to ask for a promotion if I'm noticing gaps within the business and I'm not saying anything? Oh, it's not my job. No, but it is my job because I work here at this organization and it's important for me to support the business in moving forward. And I care about the people that I work with and I care about the success of the organization. And so for me to not say anything, I'm not taking responsibility for the greater impact of the organization. It's not about having the title of a certain role or about being a manager to be able to be a leader at the organization and be able to share and take responsibility for what you're noticing and what you're seeing and to help support the growth of other people. So that's what taking responsibility and everyone is responsible, that's what it means for me. And I'm really curious what it might mean for you. And so I would love to hear in the comments below after you've watched this what taking responsibility and everyone is responsible, what that means for you. The second part of this piece is around being honest and learning from your mistakes. And so when I think about business in general and about learning in general, so many failures happen, and truly you cannot get to success without passing failure on the way. And being able to speak vulnerably about the mistakes that you've made or the failures that you've had, and then being able to share them with others so that they learn through your failures and mistakes, that's powerful, and that builds leadership. So wrapping up number 3, it's all about taking responsibility for our mistakes, being honest about them, being vulnerable, and that shows leadership. It shows that you care, and it shows that the business is important to you and that you are invested in bringing it forward. So we're on to number 4 now, which is about being solutions focused, and it ties really well into that take responsibility number 3 that I just spoke about. So I shared a story with you, literally just shared that story with you about walking into a retail location and then noticing all of the gaps in the business. It's not enough to analyze the business or to identify opportunities or to notice these gaps in the business. What's important is being able to provide a solution. So 1, I'm analytical. I can tell you where I see there's opportunity in the business. That's great. What's more important is that I share a gap in the business and a solution to support it. It shows innovation, creative thinking, problem solving, and again, I've said it a couple times now, but it shows your care in pushing and moving the business forward rather than sitting back and thinking it's somebody else's job to figure it out, or here's the error, you do it. You're coming with a solution which shows that you care. We talked about advocating for yourself, entitlement. We talked about taking responsibilities and learning from our mistakes and being honest, being solutions focused, and the 5th and final thing that your boss wants you to know before being promoted is about doing what you say you're going to do. It's about honoring your word. It's about building that trust by continuing to do what you say you're going to do. So if you say you're going to show up at 8 o'clock tomorrow and you show up at 9, or if you say that you're going to take on an extra project and then you don't do it, or you say you're going to hand something in on time and you end up handing it in 2 days late. It's when you said that you would take on another client and then you forgot to call them. It's saying that you're going to train Joanna, but then you don't. Going back to your manager and saying, I've taken on too much, I'm not capable of taking or calling that client. I'm not capable of training Joanna. That is more important. That is staying true to your word, and that builds trust. All right, so to bring us home, we talked about advocating for ourselves. We talked about entitlement. We talked about taking responsibility and learning from our mistakes, being honest. We talked about being solutions focused, really supporting the business with the gaps that we're seeing, but then bringing a solution to support it. And the 5th thing we talked about was honoring your word. So I hope that these things support you in that next step in your career journey, that you really think and ground yourself into these 5 areas before you talk to your boss about a promotion, that you do the work, and that you really gather those examples and those results that you created to be able to show how you're really moving the business forward and that you care about the organization as a whole and the people that you work with and not just your own career. And I hope and wish for the best with all of you, and that you set those big audacious goals for yourselves and that you achieve them. And along the way, if you're ever looking for support, know that you can always turn to @OwnTheInterview over on Instagram for tips And stay tuned to this YouTube channel, and you can always send me a direct message. I'd be happy to help. Again, I wish you all the best, and take care for now.